Hey, what's up, everyone? Daniel from Swallow Hill Music here. We're going live today to talk with Ben from Henhouse Prowlers. I'm so excited about this interview. This is Henhouse Prowlers is an awesome bluegrass band that is playing here at Swallow Hill Music this Friday, December 6th. I just invited Ben to the call right now, so he should be here in just a second. They're a really amazing band that's doesn't just shred bluegrass, they're also doing some incredible cultural diplomacy that I can't wait to hear about. And there's Ben now. What's up, man?
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Hey. Yeah, of course, of course. Happy to talk to you. So I was just telling everybody who's hopped on so far, you guys are playing this Friday, December 6th, at Swallow Hill. We can't wait to have you. And y'all just got back from the Czech Republic not too long ago, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a week ago. We've been pretty busy. And like a week before that, we were in Bolivia. So
Whew.
it's been a busy fall winter for us already.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Props to you guys. Which
Thanks.
way is I mean, hopefully you're getting over the jet lag by now.
Yeah. Yes, I am. I mean, the jet lag is easier coming back home from Europe than it is going there.
Yeah.
So it was a little brutal getting there, but we're finally in good shape overall.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool.
Mhm.
Has I'm curious, has just like touring as a band just like before even the international stuff, has just touring as a band like kind of helped you prepare for that? Like the endurance of just being dead tired?
Yeah, that's a good. You're
Nice.
right. Like you do learn how to function with a lack of sleep. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, sometimes those international things, it's like you fly for 19 hours and then you got to play a gig. I'd
Oh,
rather that not be the case. I really
yeah.
would. But sometimes you have to do that because budget's tight. You can't budget in a day off to get rest, and so you gotta play. And I think any professional musician has been in that situation, and you learn how to drink some coffee and get on stage and do your job.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, props to y'all. I was lucky enough to take a trip to Europe earlier this year too, and I know that feeling very well of just like operating on like no sleep. So I can't imagine playing a gig right after that. So that
Yeah.
is so impressive.
At least the coffee over there is really good and strong.
Yes. There you go. Yeah, they know how to do
Yeah.
it. You're not getting crappy Motel 6 coffee at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Do you guys have any like pre-show like rituals or anything that help you out with that? Like or is it kind of just caffeine?
Well, we do have cold brew on our rider,
Nice.
and so that at least there's that if the venue doesn't have a very good coffee machine. But I mean, we do have a come together before we go on stage with the whole crew, with our sound guy and our
Hmm.
manager, where we kind of try to focus for a minute, and like say out loud that we're going to put on as good a show as we possibly can. And that's only something we started doing within the past 2 years.
Hmm.
And I wish we'd been doing it for the past 15 years, honestly, because
Yeah.
it really is a super cool way to kind of all be on the same wavelength. And, our sound engineer, Ian, our manager Anna, they're all equally as important as all the guys on stage and that. And when we're all on the same page, it really does help us function better. So that I don't know, sure, it wakes me up more than it just makes me realize I'm accountable to everybody and they're accountable to me, and that's a good place to start from.
Yeah. That's tight. Setting intentions. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Very cool, Ben.
yeah.
Well,
I never been asked
oh,
that before.
oh, cool. Right on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing to think about. I think about in my own band, it's like I often find like the first like 10 minutes before and after the show are sometimes the most like taxing parts is my mind's just going like a million different places. So that's cool to hear. I'm always curious about how different folks sort of manage that, you know.
Yeah, boy,
Yeah.
and everybody in my band deals with it differently. I see Chris, our guitar player, he vanishes about a half an hour before the show and goes quiet.
Yeah.
quietly practices, warms up. But we do have warm up rituals too. We actually have a rule that's like an hour before we go on stage, we have to have our suits on.
Yeah.
Because that takes 5 minutes, and if you're doing it at the last minute, it sucks. So we do try to be regimented about things like that to eliminate as much stress as possible right before you go on. But you're right. The
Yeah.
first 10 minutes before and after are sometimes the most intense of the night. You're right.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So do you guys always perform in the suits then?
Yeah,
That's like part of the thing, right? Yeah.
it is. I mean, there are very rare occasions that we do like a workshop or, the weather is a certain way. It's funny,
Yeah.
man. We played the coldest gig we've ever played on Saturday night.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, it was in Rockford. It was an outdoor gig in, late November. And so you couldn't tell we were wearing suits because we all had winter coats on
Yeah.
over them and stuff. But yeah, like even in some of the far off places we've been lucky enough to play in, like Africa, 120 degrees out. I remember a gig we did in Djibouti that was literally 125, and we wore our suits.
Jeez.
It
That's
was like,
commitment right there.
yeah, at that point, it was kind of like, we're not going to let this bring us down.
Yeah.
It was like, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, the suits are kind of a part of the ritual too, for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tight. Yeah.
Hmm.
Very cool, man. Well, yeah, Ben, I'd love to hear, and for folks, for just anyone who's just joining us, we're here talking with Ben of the Henhouse Prowlers here at Swallow Hill Music, where the Henhouse Prowlers is going to be playing a concert this Friday, December 6th at 8 p.m. We are so stoked to have them, not just because they're an awesome like bluegrass band, but also because they do some very important like not-for-profit work in the global community. And I'd love to hear from you a little more about that, Ben. Would you be able to kind of tell the folks watching a little bit more about y'all's Bluegrass Ambassadors program and
Yeah,
specifically this new Common Chords initiative that you're doing?
sure. Yeah. So uh, about 12 years ago, we got involved with doing what's called cultural diplomacy work with the
Hmm.
U.S. State Department through a program called American Music Abroad that, you know, it's the only program in the State Department that you can apply for and audition for. So it really is a good place to get a foot in the door. And we kind of flippantly applied for it back then, thinking like, well, it's free, why not? And then they were like, you've been accepted to audition. And we were like, oh crap, like we need to take this seriously.
Yeah,
And so we did, and we got it that first time. And I remember being elated, but not really knowing what it was. And they, like, a couple months later, they called me and they were like, okay, you guys are going to Africa. And for me, like, I have a history with that continent. My dad's an African historian. He took me there
hmm,
when I was 18. And to go there separate from my father was like a huge moment for me. And that tour was, in retrospect, the hardest one we've done, but it was also really powerful and really set the tone where it was like all of a sudden we realized as a band that there were other things than just playing on stage that we were excited about. And so we really leaned into that stuff and made it clear to the people at the State Department, like, we love this, we take it seriously.
hmm,
And one of the tricks we learned was that if we were going to get invited to another country, we should learn some of their music. And that's the
sure.
magic thing. And and we kind of go the extra mile and we learn to sing in their language. And that makes our job so much easier. Our job on those things is just connect with people.
Sure.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, fast forward to now, we've done that. We've been to 29 countries, and it's really been an important part of what we do. So, all while we're simultaneously writing music and recording music and stuff like that. So it's definitely made this duality in our existence as a band, but it's one we're really proud of and really does inform our music too. And after COVID, we were like, we weren't sure, but we felt like the State Department might not be calling us anymore,
Sure.
which, connections get lost, whatever. And so we were like, well, we want to keep doing this regardless. And we did start a nonprofit organization 10 years ago to help us do music education and kind of fold these experiences into workshops and education programming that's been really successful. And we were like, well, we think it's time to do one of these tours on our own without the State Department. And that's where this Common Chords program came from. About a year and a half ago, we started talking about it and fundraising for it. And the long and the short of it is that when we first started touring in Europe 10 years ago, we played a show in a couple shows in the Czech Republic and had this crazy experience happen at every show we played there, which was that we'd finish playing and people would show up to the merch table with bluegrass instruments. And we were like, what's going on? We'd have these jam sessions and people were singing traditional bluegrass songs that we didn't know. Like, they were more educated about the music than we were. And as we dove into it more, we found out there's this really incredible story of a connection between the Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia, and the United States, where at the end of World War II, there were these radio broadcasts going out of Germany after Germany fell that had bluegrass and country music on them. And at the time, Czechoslovakia was dealing with the issues of communism. There was also this kind of background of that culture for years, really valuing what they call tramping, which is going out in the country, camping with your friends and playing music. And I think this confluence of all those things came together, and people literally heard those radio broadcasts and associated that music with the sound, with freedom. And they started building bluegrass instruments and learning how to play them. And now, 2024, some of the best bluegrass musicians in the world are there. And not very many Americans know that.
I sure didn't.
Right. Yeah. And so our goal for this trip was to go and do what we do some schoolwork, but also we had a show in Prague, and we put together this symposium where a bunch of influential Czech bluegrass musicians came together and talked about the history and the importance of this connection. And it was wildly successful. And we got to interview some of these people, including this guy, Marco Chermak, who was the very first guy. Like, he told us this story about, tuning in on the radio and hearing this music and how it made him feel the first time he heard it. And then he became the first banjo player there and inspired thousands of people by playing it. And there was this story about Pete Seeger playing there in the 60s. And like, these guys, they see Pete Seeger or they saw a picture of a banjo and they made banjos from photographs. Like, they'd look at a picture because there was no internet. Right. It was a communist country. You couldn't get information in very easily. So these guys literally built these instruments from pictures. And it's just it's inspiring story that for us, that I think it goes so far beyond bluegrass even, I think. I think it's really this beautiful message about how human ingenuity and how music kind of transcends all the government BS and allows us to communicate and connect with each other regardless of what's going on politically around us. And so there's my longer than an elevator pitch about this. So we just came back with 5 terabytes of video from this tour, and we're so excited because it went way better than we could have imagined. So it was awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing, Ben. That's super cool. I mean, obviously I researched for this interview. I've heard about the Ambassadors program, the Common Chords program, but to just hear stories like that about building banjos from pictures, I mean, holy cow. Like,
I mean, there were so many times on this tour that the 4 of us were brought to emotional peaks that we had to be like, stop. Like, I mean, man, we had this jam session in this tiny little town with these local musicians, and we had learned a song that it was actually a Johnny Cash song. Like, this was when this music was growing over there. They weren't allowed to sing in English, right? Because it was a threat to their government. So
Sure.
they had to rewrite these songs. There are thousands of songs in the Czech Republic rewritten in Czech, and so we thought it'd be cool to learn one of those. And we learned Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. It's called Blues Folsomski, and it's rewritten in Czech, and we learned to sing it. And like, we had at this jam session, these folks, they had seen us on stage earlier in the day play it, and we played it with them and sang it with them. And like, at the end of that song, this woman turned to me and like grabbed my arm, and she's like, "This music was our underground," and she
Mhm.
just like, had tears in her eyes, and like, it was a moment I'll never forget. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Very
Amen.
fortunate.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. We're a nonprofit here at Swallow Hill Music too, and our mission statement is building community through music. And like that's just, so you're speaking our language. I mean, that's like precisely why we do what we do for stories like that. I mean, just the ability of music to connect people even across languages, across borders. I'm curious too, Ben, do you think there is something like inherent to bluegrass music in, or even just like being a folk music of a people that like makes it easier for other cultures to latch onto? Like, do you think it was, in this Czech Republic example, you have this concrete thing of it coming over the radio from Germany, but do you think there's anything inherent to the genre of music that lends itself well to crossing cultures?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking about that and trying to figure
Yeah.
it out and understand it. And so I'm not going to act like I know, but I've seen enough evidence, uh, and I do think there's something about that at the core of what we're doing. It's like music everybody loves music, and every culture
Mhm.
has their folk music, and I just see over and over when those two things are shared. uh I've just had these moments where I've not been able to communicate with somebody with a spoken language, and but we've shared the love of a song and felt like friends instantly, even though I couldn't speak a word to it,
Yeah.
and so absolutely I do. And I know what you guys do there, and I really love your organization. I learned to play at the Old Town School of Folk Music in
Oh
Chicago,
yeah.
and I know that there's some
Yeah.
connection between you guys and the Old Town School,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
and and I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't have a place like the Old Town and Swallow Hill at my at, at my beck and call when I decided it was time to learn to play music. And
Yeah.
uh, and so I'm grateful that those places continue to exist, and I think they really do help grow that thing we're talking about here, how people connect through music, and
Mhm.
it's a common chord in
Yeah.
humanity.
There you go. Nice. Yeah. Oh, very cool then. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, and I hope that's inspiring for any of our students watching. That, you took lessons, you're now a, this international touring band, and you took lessons at a school very much like ours. It can happen
Oh,
to anyone, right?
oh, absolutely.
Um, yeah. On that note, too, I'll skip ahead in the questions here a little bit. Do you have any, knowing that we are a music school as well, do you have any advice for like aspiring bluegrass pickers?
Uh, I mean, I can only go on my experience. I mean,
Of course. Yeah.
I 25 years ago, right around now, bought my first banjo kind of on a lark,
Hmm.
and fell in love with it and started working on it. And I will say that those early years, it was really important that I was taking lessons at the Old Town School,
Hmm.
uh, because it set me off on the right path towards having some good foundational skill sets on the instrument. My first teacher was a guy named Gus Friedlander, and he was like a staunch traditionalist,
Mm.
and really did. He's he's kind of the kind of guy that would make me a little frustrated right now. Uh,
Yeah.
it- but there's no question that he gave me the right hand skills I needed to drive the banjo. And you
Hmm.
know, banjo and drive are two things that are synonymous with each other. And he taught me how to practice and how to learn. And I'm grateful that I was smart enough to take lessons.
Hmm.
Because you know it's one thing to use, and back then I feel like an old man. Back then I had to sneak over to the college around the corner from me and sneak into the computer lab and print out tablature, uh, and back then YouTube wasn't a thing. And it is amazing. I mean, I use YouTube to find new licks and new stuff
Sure.
to inspire me all the time, but there's nothing beats being in the same room with a good teacher who can watch
Hmm.
your hand move and correct you before you've developed a habit. Because correcting bad habits is 10 times harder than learning new skills.
Right.
And, you know, it really is. And
Yeah.
I'm working on that stuff right now. You know, as much as he set me on the right path, there's some things I've developed
Yeah.
poorly, and I'm really trying to fix them right now. And it's a
Yeah.
pain in the
Oh, me
butt.
too.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
You're just
But
like, dang it, if I could just go back 20 years and just be like, dude, it's gonna be harder to relearn this. Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the other thing I did immediately was I bought that banjo, I got a lesson, and a week later I started playing in a band, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was just awful. It was
Yeah.
really bad. But that was the other thing that you know, you don't have to be playing in a band that's playing on stage, but find people to play with because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, practicing and playing at home in your closet is way different than playing with other people. And you want to start building those
Yeah.
skills as much as anything, you know, because learning how to play with somebody is different than learning how to play with a metronome, which
Absolutely.
you should also be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Both and, right?
Right,
Both and. Yeah.
right.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I like this comment that Eric Stock, it looks like, just put here in the chat, especially with all of the online lessons today. I think there is something to that, and I'm glad to hear you say this as a professional international performer, that like there are so many ways to learn, kind of teach yourself these days with YouTube and apps and tutorials and everything. There's so many ways to teach yourself, and but there is something you really just can't beat, of just like one to one with another person. So that's great to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that similar to YouTube, I think the reality is there's good YouTube educational content and there's bad YouTube educational content.
For sure.
And man, when I have a teacher that I like as a human being and who clearly likes teaching,
Yes.
I leave so much more inspired than anything else. And I mean, it's like anything else. Like sometimes you have to try out different therapists or whatever
Yeah.
to find the right
Right.
one. And I think the same thing goes for teachers too. Some of my favorite humans and interactions have been with teachers that were born to teach. Like good teachers are such a powerful thing, you know,
Yes.
and they inspire me to be a better teacher, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's something folks say about our teachers at Swallow Hill too. It's just like this. Sometimes there's like some people have a gift for that, right? So like why not take advantage of that,
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. And ultimately, I mean, this is cool, Ben, because this is ultimately tying back to what we started talking about with cultural diplomacy, is that like music is meant to be shared. Like it's meant to be a connector between people, right? And so like that, whether that's doing a program in the Czech Republic or just like having your first lesson with somebody face to face, I mean, that's an undeniable power for sure, right? Like,
Yeah, man.
yeah.
You're yes, you're good. You're good with language, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. So same to you, man.
Mutual
So
respect.
yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, well, I think we got a few more minutes here if you do, Ben.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit about what to expect at your show on Friday.
Yeah, we're like I said, we're coming off two pretty incredible tours And that's definitely got us fired up, and especially after playing. We played our 20th anniversary show here in Chicago on Friday night, which was amazing. And then the next night we played that coldest show ever.
Mm.
So we're looking forward to playing indoors for a few shows.
Yeah.
And we've got we have a new album coming out in April. Yeah, in April. And so we just released our first single a couple weeks ago, and we've also got some other singles that are coming out. So we've been pulling them out live, even though our record label might not be all that encouraging of us doing that. So it's exciting to play new stuff, and it's just exciting to come back from inspired by what we just did. We'll be able to play the Folsom Prison Blues, the Czech version of that, and share some of the stuff we've been doing. And I think that comes out both in the music and in the communication with the audience after a tour like that. So I'm really pumped to get back to playing some shows after we were doing about 10 days of straight cultural diplomacy. We're ready to play. That's for sure.
Yeah. Sweet. Cool. Yeah. So some sneak peeks of new songs. I mean, that's always it's always a good incentive to come. What do you think are some of your favorite songs to play live right now? Like, what's the band really, really cooking on?
Well, the band has been stretching out a little bit, and we've been, when this band started 20 years ago, I was, because of my teacher, I was a pretty staunch traditionalist. That's where the suits came from, all that stuff. And I've really loosened my grip on that, and it's allowed me to have a lot more fun and allowed us to have a lot more fun. And so we definitely have been taken to stretching out and experimenting and trying to make each show a little different these days. And doing some more improvisation, digging deep into our catalog and pulling some old stuff back out that we haven't played in years.
Okay, sweet.
So it's hard to say exactly. I mean, what we've been enjoying. I mean, honestly, we're enjoying playing some of the brand new stuff. We're really jacked about this new album.
Yeah.
Like the material, when we sat down to suss out, like, this band is really proud to write all their own material. And we had an abundance of great songs. It was really tough to figure out which ones we were going to select to be on the album this time. And so we're really pumped to be playing new stuff and blowing some new energy into what we're doing on stage through just some new music and new inspiration to kind of break the rules a bit. So I can't give you a specific song, but I can tell you that things are changing in this band, and it's really exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Some new energy, some new stuff to look for. So, I mean, I'm hearing from that then too, like if folks in Denver have seen you before, then like this is going to be, keep coming through, because stuff's going to be different, right? Like,
absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Well, sweet, Ben. I can't wait for the show, and it's been super great talking to you. I mean, this is
same.
Yeah,
real easy.
Nice. Glad to hear it. That's my goal. So, same here, man. You're clearly very passionate about what you do, and I'm just so excited that we get to host y'all. I mean, you guys are a phenomenal band, and it's gonna be a great show.
Yeah, and we're all educators in this band, and so it really does mean a lot to us to perform and collaborate with a place like this, like Swallow Hill. Like, it really fits who we are, and so I've been looking forward to this for a while. I just wanted to say that.
Heck yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a good match.
Yeah.
Good on the same wavelength. Huh?
Definitely.
Heck yeah. Well, sweet, man. Well, yeah, folks, thanks for tuning in. The Henhouse Prowlers are going to be playing here at Swallow Hill Music in Denver this Friday, December 6th, 8 p.m. Going to be a phenomenal show. Ben, lovely conversation. Thanks for taking the time, man. And
thanks, man.
Yeah, we'll see you Friday.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, sweet. Peace, man. Take care.
You too.
Yeah. Oh, you can get your tickets at the link in the bio. Forgot to say that. I always forget to say that. But anyway, Henhouse Prowlers this Friday, December 6th. Get your tickets, the link in the bio. We'll see you there. Have a good night, folks.